In this carrying box is a pen box that I've been working on for, well, a year, turns out, on and off. And if I open it up, there it is. So this is a Doctor Who themed box, and it is based on a prop called The Moment from a Doctor Who episode. And the reason I chose this was that the pens that are inside here were for someone who's a Doctor Who fan, and I also have trouble finding decent catches and latches for boxes, things that are sort of fairly high quality. And it turns out, if you look at the top face of this box, that this is actually a very elaborate latch. If I unlock it, you'll see that there are 8 bars here which slide in and out. There's some counter-rotating wheels and things here. Actually, they're not counter-rotating, they rotate with the main wheel. And if I take that out, you can see that there's a pen set in there with space underneath for various bits and bobs, cartridges and ink and things. But the mechanism itself has these 8 bolts, and they slide into slots that I've put into these bits here. And if you try and lift it out now, it does not come out. In fact, you can probably lift the entire box up. So I was trying to find a decent Doctor Who box, and this is sort of the one, I suppose. The original wasn't this size or exact shape. The original was actually 25% bigger. It was a 30cm cube, so that was sort of that big. And it was a cube. This is a half cube. And the full size one would have been sort of up here somewhere and this big, and it's just a bit too big for the pens that are inside. If we look at the pens in here, they actually sort of fit in there quite nicely. There's quite a nice arrangement there. It's not overly large or small. The original, I believe the original had a either laser cut or 3D printed set of gears here. These are all made out of metal, so this is brass. The lighter colour ones here are aluminium. These are aluminium. There's some copper bolts that slide in here, and these blocks here are all brass. Underneath there is actually one part which is black, and as that doesn't match any metal really, I have done that in black acrylic. Everything here has been done on my CNC 3020, and it can cut metal. It cut all these parts here, but it just takes a little bit of time. This centre wheel, for example, was cut using a 1mm cutter, and that took 5 hours to actually cut that out, and then I cleaned it up by hand. The rotating parts are all dome head rivets of various sizes. There's copper ones and there's aluminium ones. The aluminium ones are actually riveted, so to get these off I have to actually file away the back of the rivet, but that means they're pretty secure. The copper head ones have actually got threads inserted, well, not inserted, I've actually put a hole at a particular height. I cut them off at a particular height. There's spacers on the mechanism, and I tap that hole, and then I put bolts in there, or screws, machine screws, and so everything is metal apart from that acrylic there, and the baseboard is actually wood. So take that off, take the pens out, put those somewhere else, and take out some refills I've got in there. So if you look at the sides, they are the same. So the original Moment has this on the top, and this is exactly the same as the original, except it's 4/5 scale, so it is smaller. On the sides there's the engraved plate, which is slightly different to the original. This one's stainless steel, so it's a silver colour, the original was a gold colour. I thought I'd change it a little bit, that was deliberate. I thought I'd make this slightly different to the original because it is a different thing. You've got gears here which do actually rotate. These aren't metal, these are acrylic. They just didn't look right with brass, so I've done those in acrylic, but the centre pivots that they turn on, they are actually brass. I made those on my mini lathe. This side, this is cut out on the 3020 again. This is all acrylic, 3mm acrylic I think, held on with copper dome head rivets, and on the other side same sort of arrangement of drilling a hole and then tapping it and holding it on with a bolt. And this is acrylic and acrylic. There's a white acrylic sheet and then the black was cut out on my 3020. Underneath, nothing, because it's a box. I've got some feet here. The corner pieces are 3D printed and held on with a single screw in the corner. That was probably the hardest part of working out how I was going to do that. So what it does mean, the whole box, there's no structural glue in there. The only glue in this box is the glue that is holding on the crushed velvet that I've lined it with in the inside here, and also on the pen stand and on the back of the latch mechanism. That means you can take it apart fairly non-destructively. The only thing you may do is have to take some crushed velvet off, and even then what I've actually done is I've got countersunk screws on the parts of wood that I've covered in crushed velvet, so you can actually non-destructively take these out. Nothing is glued. The inside here, I covered the parts and then put them in. I didn't put them in and then cover them. So the whole thing's dismantleable to its component parts, which was pretty handy when I was making it, because I was designing it as I was building it. So it was based on some plans that I got from CG Trader. There was a person there who'd made a full-size one and had some plans, but I had to scale everything, and I also had to rearrange every side to take account of the fact that this was a half cube, not a full cube. But after a year's work, I'm pretty pleased with that. It's come out quite well, and it does actually work, which is the most important thing. I was very pleased when I saw that this was a latch mechanism. I mean, it's a bit elaborate, it takes a while to turn them out, but it's much better than a cheap latch on the top of a box. What else? That's about it really. There's lacquer on the top here on various parts of the mechanism here, so some of the polished dome head rivets should stay pretty shiny, and you are touching it a lot because you're picking it up and you're turning the wheel, so I wanted that to sort of stay in a good condition. And I made a box for it because the original prop actually was carried in the episode in a sack, and I wasn't going to do that, so I did spend a little bit of time making a box for it which holds it in place, so you can sort of put it in that and not be worried about bits being damaged on the sides and top and so on. Although this is pretty robust, being made out of metal.